Hey man, nothing stings quite like a woman ignoring you. You send a message, and hours pass with no reply. You try to start a conversation, and she gives you one-word answers. You make the effort, and she meets you with silence, and instantly most men spiral. They panic, they overthink, they double text, they beg for her attention. They start wondering what they did wrong, as if they've committed some unforgivable sin just by existing. But here's the brutal truth. Her ignoring you is not the problem. The real problem is how you react to it. Because when you chase after her silence, you tell her you're desperate. When you beg for her attention, you tell her you have no options. And when you fold under her games, you prove you're weak. That's why most men lose when women ignore them, because they hand her the power she was testing for all along. But brother, here's where reverse psychology becomes your weapon. When she ignores you, you don't chase, you don't panic, you don't beg. You act like her silence doesn't even register in your world. You flip the script. Instead of thinking, what can I do to get her attention back? You think, what can I do to remind her I don't need her attention in the first place? Because women don't respect men who fall apart under pressure. They respect men who act unaffected. When you act like you didn't even notice her pulling away, you reframe the dynamic completely. Suddenly, she's the one wondering, why isn't he reacting? Why doesn't he care? Why is he so calm? And that curiosity starts working in your favor. You must understand, ignoring is a test. It's her way of measuring your frame. She wants to see if you'll chase, if you'll collapse, if you'll reveal your desperation. And most men fail instantly. They flood her with messages, they get emotional, they start over-explaining themselves. But the high-value man passes the test by doing nothing, by acting like nothing has changed, by continuing his life as if she was never the center of it. That's reverse psychology in its purest form. You give her the opposite of what she expects. She expects desperation. You show indifference. She expects begging. You show discipline. And the very silence you thought would control you becomes the silence that makes her lose control. Think about it, brother. When a woman ignores you, she's expecting to feel power. She's expecting to watch you scramble for her attention, to feel validated by your desperation. But when you don't give her that reaction, when you remain calm, steady, and focused on yourself, you rob her of that power. Instead of feeling superior, she starts feeling insecure. Instead of thinking she's in control, she starts wondering if she's losing you. That's the beauty of reverse psychology. You don't fight her silence, you use it. You turn her own tactic against her. Because in the end, a woman doesn't chase the man who chases her. She chases the man who doesn't flinch when she pulls away. Here's the key. When she ignores you, act as though your life is already full without her. Keep moving, stay busy, double down on your mission, your fitness, your goals. Post that picture of you at the gym, out with friends, focused on your grind, not to impress her, but to remind yourself that you are the prize, because nothing drives a woman crazier than realizing her silence didn't break you. That instead of sitting by the phone, waiting, you elevated. That while she was trying to get in your head, you were building a life that doesn't need her validation. That's reverse psychology at its finest. Her attempt to control you only ends up pulling her back towards you, because women are drawn to the man who can't be shaken. When you remain calm in the face of her silence, you're sending a signal far louder than any words could. You're telling her, I'm not here to chase, I'm here to live. And that message shakes her to the core because it's not what most men do. Most men make her feel like a goddess just because she withheld a little attention. They beg, they plead, they overcompensate. But you walk differently. You show her that your world doesn't stop. Because she pulled back, it keeps moving faster and stronger. And here's the thing, brother. Women don't ignore men to lose them, they ignore men to test them. So when you don't take the bait, she starts panicking. She realizes her weapon of silence didn't weaken you, it backfired. And now she's the one overthinking while you're unbothered. You have to see that women crave the man who doesn't fold under pressure. When she ignores you, she's looking for proof of your strength. She wants to know if you're the kind of man who lives in abundance or the kind of man who breaks under scarcity. And when you act unaffected, when you continue to move with certainty, she sees the abundance. She sees that you have options, that you're not desperate, that you're not addicted to her attention. And that's exactly what makes her chase you again. Because a woman doesn't want a man she can control. She wants a man she can't break. And when you show her that her silence doesn't bend you, you earn her respect in a way no gift or word ever could. This is why reverse psychology works so powerfully in these situations. You give her what she least expects, the opposite of what she thinks she'll get. If she ignores you, she expects a reaction. Don't give her one. If she pulls back, she expects you to chase. Don't chase. If she withholds her energy, she expects you to crumble. Instead, you thrive. You flip the dynamic so completely that her own tactic turns against her, and suddenly her silence, which was supposed to make you insecure, makes her insecure. Her ignoring you, which was supposed to make her feel powerful, now makes her question her value. That's the brilliance of this strategy. You don't fight her game, you make her game work against her. Understand this, women don't actually want men who collapse under silence. They want men who remain steady no matter what, because life will always test them. Her moods, her emotions, her doubts, her storms. And if you can't stay calm when she ignores you for a few days, how can she trust you to stay calm when real problems come? That's why your reaction in this moment matters so much. It's not about texting less, calling less, or playing some fake strategy. It's about embodying the man who doesn't crumble when she withdraws, the man who can hold his frame when hers collapses, the man who reminds her through action that he is the anchor and she is the wave. And women respect anchors, not drifters. And here's where most men will never understand. When she ignores you, she's not always punishing you. Sometimes she's measuring you. She wants to know if you'll keep your composure or if you'll sell yourself out for attention. And if you fail, if you bombard her with messages, if you beg for a reply, she loses respect instantly. But if you pass, if you stay calm, stay grounded, stay busy, she begins to see you differently. Suddenly, you're not just another man trying to win her approval. You're the rare man who doesn't need it. And that, brother, is magnetic. That's what pulls her back in. That's what makes her stop ignoring you and start chasing you. Because at the end of the day, reverse psychology isn't about tricks. It's about revealing who really has control. And when you don't react, the control shifts to you. Brother, the silence test she throws at you is one of the oldest in the book, and it separates the men who crave validation from the men who command respect. When she ignores you, she's looking to see if her absence makes you weak. She wants to know if you'll beg for crumbs of attention, or if you'll carry on like a man whose world is already full. The mistake most men make is thinking they can talk their way back into her interest. But women don't respect words when emotions are low. They respect energy, presence, and restraint. When you act unaffected, you communicate without saying a single word that her silence has no power over you. That's reverse psychology, making her realize that the very tool she used to test you actually pushed you higher instead of breaking you. The moment you start chasing her silence, you put her on a pedestal. You hand her the crown and make yourself her subject. But the moment you ignore her, you strip her of that power. Instead of her thinking, he needs me to feel alive, she starts thinking, why doesn't he need me? Why is he so calm? Why is he so sure of himself? And that shift creates insecurity inside of her. Because the truth is, brother, women want to be wanted, but they don't want to be needed. When you show her that you don't need her attention to validate your worth, you become more attractive, not less. She starts chasing the very man who didn't chase her. That's how the roles reverse without you lifting a finger. Ignoring her back is not about being petty, it's about being strategic. You don't match her silence with bitterness. You don't sit around sulking. You simply live as though she doesn't exist. You pour into your work, your training, your mission. You engage with friends, with family, with opportunities. You elevate, because nothing shakes a woman more than realizing she disappeared from your world, and yet your world got better without her. That's the paradox most men don't grasp. They think ignoring a woman means sitting in bitterness, when in reality, the best reverse psychology is thriving. Because when she sees you elevate without her, she starts questioning why she was gone in the first place. And here's the part that cuts the deepest, brother. A woman's greatest fear is not rejection, it's irrelevance. When she ignores you, she assumes she still holds space in your mind. She assumes her absence is causing you pain, stirring up your emotions, making you restless. But when you act like nothing happened, when you continue to move as though her silence is a pebble in your path, you rob her of the relevance she thought she had. Suddenly she starts checking your social media more often. She starts dropping hints. She starts finding excuses to reach out. Because the man who doesn't chase her silence becomes the man she can't stop thinking about. And that's the true reversal. She ignored you to feel powerful, but your indifference made her powerless. This is why calm indifference is your greatest weapon. Not anger, not bitterness, not trying to get even. Calm indifference. Because indifference tells her, you're not the center of my life. You're not the source of my happiness. You're a part of my world, not the whole of it. And once you embody that, her silence no longer controls you. It fuels you. That's the beauty of reverse psychology. You don't fight her games. You don't try to outdo her. You simply live in such a way that her attempts to test you only elevate your status in her eyes. And when she realizes that ignoring you only made you stronger, she'll be the one fighting for your attention again. Here's what you must burn into your mind. A woman ignoring you isn't always about you. It's about her own need for control. She wants to see if she can bend you without lifting a finger. She wants to feel the power of absence, to see if her silence alone is enough to pull you into pursuit. And most men fail because they take it personally. They assume they're not good enough. They spiral into insecurity, and they try to fix it by proving themselves harder. But when you see her silence for what it really is, a tactic, a test, or sometimes even just her own mood, you stop reacting emotionally. You stop making it about your worth. And once you stop reacting, you break the cycle. She no longer gets the satisfaction of controlling your behavior through something as small as ignoring you. That's why, brother, the best reverse psychology is not to show her you care less. It's to actually care less, to live in a way where her attention is not your oxygen. Because when you truly live that way, when you don't just act calm but are calm, your energy changes completely. Women can smell desperation the way wolves smell blood, and most men leak desperation the moment they're ignored. But the man who is rooted in himself, the man who doesn't chase, the man who stays steady, he gives off an entirely different energy. He becomes mysterious, rare, unpredictable, and that's what makes her come back. Not because you played games, but because you refused to let her games move you. Think about the irony here. When you chase her after she ignores you, you prove she's more important than your mission. But when you stay focused on your mission, you prove she's only a small part of your larger vision. And women crave men with vision. They crave men who move with purpose, men who are already going somewhere, men who don't stop their world for anyone. That's why reverse psychology works so powerfully here. The less you react, the more she invests. The more you detach, the more she attaches. The more you live without her validation, the more she seeks to give it. It's not a trick, it's the natural balance of desire. The man who needs nothing is the man who ends up with everything. You also need to see how this flips the frame permanently. Most men operate from the frame of how do I keep her interested, but the high-value man operates from is she worthy of staying in my life? That one shift changes everything. Because when she ignores you, most men panic. They think they're about to lose her. But you ask yourself, do I even want a woman who ignores me like this? That frame puts you in control. It makes her realize you're not afraid of losing her. You're evaluating her. And when a woman feels evaluated instead of idolized, her behavior changes instantly. She stops testing as much. She stops playing games because she realizes she could lose you just as easily as you could lose her. And here's the truth, brother. When you act this way, most of the time she comes running back. Not because you begged, not because you convinced her, not because you tried to prove your worth, but because you didn't. Because your silence screamed louder than her ignoring ever could. That's reverse psychology in its most powerful form. You don't fight her tactics, you let them collapse under their own weight. You don't chase her absence, you let her absence remind her of what she's missing. And when she finally comes back, when she starts giving you the attention again, you know it wasn't because you begged, it was because you passed the test. And that's the kind of victory that doesn't just earn her attention back, it earns her respect. The beauty of responding with calm indifference is that it flips the script completely. She thought ignoring you would make you chase her. Instead, ignoring you made her realize she's chasing your attention without even trying. Because while most men collapse, you elevated. While most men panicked, you thrived. While most men begged for scraps, you feasted on your own mission. And that difference doesn't just make you stand out, it makes you unforgettable. Because in her mind, the man who reacts like every other man is easy to forget. But the man who reacts like no one else, he becomes the story she can't shake, the one she replays in her head, the one she measures others against. That's what indifference buys you. Permanence in her mind. You must also realize that her ignoring you is often less about you and more about her own insecurities. Sometimes she pulls away because she feels you're too available. Sometimes she ignores because she wants to see if she still has control. Sometimes she's not even doing it consciously. It's just her way of regulating her emotions. But none of that matters, because if you react, you validate her behavior. If you chase, you encourage her to test you again. But if you stay calm, if you keep moving forward, she learns that silence doesn't work on you. And once she learns that, she stops playing that game. Because women don't repeat tactics that fail, they escalate toward respect. And here's the deepest truth, brother. When you stay grounded while she ignores you, you're not just teaching her how to treat you, you're teaching yourself how to value you. Because every time you refuse to beg, every time you refuse to fold, every time you refuse to let her silence control your emotions, you strengthen your own frame. You remind yourself that your value was never dependent on her validation. You remind yourself that you are the prize, that your mission is bigger than any single person, that your peace is worth more than her attention. And when you internalize that truth, it doesn't matter if she ignores you or not, you'll never be shaken again. The mistake men make is thinking the goal is to get her attention back, but the real goal is to make sure you never lose your power in the first place. When you act unaffected by her silence, you prove to yourself that you don't need her to validate your worth, and that's what truly makes her chase you. Because women are drawn to the man who doesn't need them. They're drawn to the man who is already whole, already complete, already living a life full of purpose. And when you live that way, even if she doesn't come back, you don't lose. Because your life was never dependent on her attention, it was always dependent on your discipline. So brother, engrave this into your mind. If a woman ignores you, don't fight it, don't fear it, don't chase it, flip it, use it. Turn her silence into your stage, her absence into your advantage, her test into your triumph. Act unaffected, stay calm, keep moving, pour into yourself, your mission, your growth. Because when you do, one of two things happens. Either she comes running back, desperate to re-enter your frame, or she stays gone, proving she was never worthy of you in the first place. Either way, you win. Because the man who doesn't chase when ignored is the man who becomes unforgettable. And that's the power of reverse psychology, brother. It makes her realize that the man she thought she could control is the very man she can't afford to lose.